Shalom, shalom. This Prophets of Awakening. This is our Wednesday night class, 2nd of September, 2020. We're going to do a moment of silence for respect for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing, and, bringing forth our deliverance from the lands of our oppressors, just as he had promised to our forefathers. We're going to go into a prayer after that. Okay. O Lord, I pray unto the Lord my God. We make our confessions. O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping covenant and mercy to them that love thee and them that keep thy commandments. O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us confusion of face as it is this day. To the men of Judah, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven us, because of our trespass, which we trespassed against thee. As it is written in the laws of Moses, all this evil has come upon us in the land of our captivity, here in the Americas, in the Caribbean, Great Britain, and Africa. O Lord, according to thy righteousness, I beseech thee that thy anger and thy fury be turned away from the city Jerusalem and thy people and thy holy mountain. O Lord, hear this prayer, cause thy face to shine upon thy sanctuary and thy people for thy sake. O Lord, open thine eyes and incline thine ears to hear, and behold our condition. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hearken and do. Defer not for thine own sake, O my Lord, for thy people and your land need you desperately at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay. So we got any current events anybody want to bring up, or something they want to let the people know?
Yeah, can you hear me good?
I can hear you.
The NBA, I don't know if you've seen, but they agreed to all the terms of the NBA players. And one of the terms is if another African American gets shot, the whole season's over.
Oh, what?
The entire season is over.
Okay.
But that was pretty interesting that, they're making those type of demands.
Right. Well, you know what that means. It's over. Somebody gonna get shot. Yeah.
Right.
You bet for it. Yeah.
That was it. That's all I have for that one.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Yeah, I was looking at that. I just for anybody that want to know, they decided to have 3 presidential debates. The first one is September 29th. Fox News gonna be the guy out of Fox News gonna be hosting it. It's in Cleveland. Then they have the second one is October 15th. It's like a town hall type debate. It's in Miami. That one is by C-SPAN. And then the last one is October 22nd. It's in Nashville. And NBC News gonna be over that one. So I just thought I'd let everybody know the dates on that and the place. So a couple of classes ago, we was dealing with Solomon, and we're gonna deal with Solomon on Friday night. But so I was looking at that. So what I had did was I'm just connecting the dots. So I looked at the fact that some of Solomon's activities after the prayer that we had talked about, and after this prayer unto the Lord of hosts. So I'm gonna read some of that, and then expound on it. If anybody have any questions or comments, we can talk about that too. But it's in 1 Kings chapter 8, and I'm reading verses 62 to 66. So this after he had the prayer. It says, and the king and all Israel with him offered sacrifices before the Lord. And Solomon offered a sacrifice of peace offering, which he offered unto the Lord, 220,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the children of Israel dedicated the house of the Lord. On the same day, the king hollowed the middle of the court that was before the house of the Lord. For there he offered burnt offerings and meat offerings and fat of the peace offering, because the brazen altar was before the Lord. The brazen altar that was before the Lord was too little to receive the burnt offerings and the meat offerings and the fat of the peace offerings. And at that time Solomon held a feast, and all Israel with him, a great congregation, from the inner end of Haman unto the river of Egypt, before the Lord our God, 7 days, and 7 days, even 14 days. On the 8th day he sent his people away, and they blessed the king and went into their tents, joyful and glad of heart, for all the gladness that the Lord had done for David his servant, and for Israel his people. So when I was looking at that, I was looking at how we read over in Leviticus, how Moses had told the people that according to the sacrifices, he says the Lord told him, when you do this right here, then he's gonna appear. He's gonna show up when you do these sacrifices. So that's contradictory to what they telling us in the New Testament about the sacrifice and all that done away with. So example, what I'm talking about is, and you got to look at this, even look at it from so-called humanitarian or the way people are. That mean they sent Michael Vick to jail, for dogs and all this stuff. But let's look at this. So it says, and the king and all Israel with him offered sacrifices before the Lord. And Solomon offered sacrifice of peace offering, which he offered unto the king, 220,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. Look at that, 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the children of Israel dedicated the house of the Lord. And the same day the king hollowed the middle of the court that was before the house of the Lord, for there he offered burnt offerings. So he offered all these animals all over the place. So if that was the day, they'll lock Solomon up. So it says, in the same day did the king hollow the middle of the court that was before the house of the Lord, and there he offered burnt offerings, meat offerings, fat and peace offerings, because look at this, because of the peace offering, because the brazen altar was before the Lord was too little. He offered so many animals, he has to holler out another area inside the temple to meet the need of what he's doing for the Lord of hosts. So like I said before, we know who the Lord of hosts is, and there ain't nobody and nothing on the earth that can continue with him. So let's look at this. So he says, so according to them, then the Lord of hosts would have had a problem with all this. So let's see if he had a problem with it. After that was before the Lord was too little to receive the burnt offering and the meat offerings and the fat of the peace offering. And at that time Solomon held a feast, and all Israel with him, a great congregation, from the inner end of Hamath unto the river Egypt, before the Lord our God, 7 days and 7 days, even 14 days. On the 8th day he sent his people away, and they blessed the king and went unto their tents, joyful and glad of heart, for all the goodness that the Lord had done for David his servant, and for all Israel his people. So we found out that the Lord had let them know that it's not a leaf that falls from a tree and falls to the ground. He don't know nothing about it. So if he knows about a leaf that falls from a tree, surely he know all these animals being sacrificed. He watching. So let's look how he responded to it. Verse 9, chapter 9, verse 1. And it came to pass, when Solomon had finished the building of the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all Solomon's desire which he was pleased to do. Look at this. 2, that the Lord appeared to Solomon the second time, as he had appeared unto him at Gibeon. And the Lord said unto him, I have heard thy prayer and thy supplication, and that thou hast made before me. I have hallowed this house which thou hast built, to put my name there forever, and mine eyes and mine heart shall be there perpetually. And if thou wilt walk before me as David thy father walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to doing all that I have commanded thee, and will keep my statutes and my judgments, then will I establish the throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever, as I promised David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man upon the throne of Israel. But if ye shall at all turn from following me, ye or your children, and will not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have hallowed for myself, and I will cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people. And if this house which is high, everyone that passeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss, and they shall say, why has the Lord done this unto this land, and to this house? And they shall answer, because I have forsook the Lord, their God, who brought forth their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and have taken hold of other gods, and have worshipped them and served them. Therefore have the Lord brought them this evil upon them. So we see right here, it's just contrary to what they in the narrative that they've been showing us about these sacrifices. So all these activities that Solomon got going on with these peace offerings and fat offerings and all this, the Most High came and blessed him according to all that he had done. And not only that, Solomon only doing what David showed him what to do. So we see this is this ain't adding up with what they're telling you in the New Testament. And like he said, he told him that verse 4, chapter 9, 1 Kings 9 and 4. And if thou wilt walk before me as David my father walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I command thee. See that? So we was reading in Leviticus what Moses told them. Lord commanded me to tell you that when you do this, when you do these peace offerings and these fat offerings and all in these sacrifices, then the Lord is going to appear to you by fire. So that's all Solomon doing is what was commanded about it was commanded by Moses, and what was taught to Moses to give to the children of Israel, his statutes and laws and his ordinances. And so we see right here when he done it, verse 9 says, and it came to pass when Solomon had finished building the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all Solomon's desire which he had pleased, the Lord appeared unto Solomon. That's exactly what Moses told him in Mount Sinai. When you do all these sacrifices in accordance to the way the Most High told you to do it, He's gonna show up. So like I said before, is you flat out. If you ain't dealing with no sacrifices, because he ain't showing up. So that's a total contradiction. Like I said, we continue to see on a daily basis one lie after another. And these lies is dangerous lies because it's contrary to what he told you. And he's not gonna respond to it if you working contrary to what he told us. He told Solomon, if you do these statutes that I commanded you and that I commanded your forefathers, then this gonna happen. And right now, according to the church and Catholicism and all that, it's contrary. Everything they told us, contrary to what the Most High commanded our forefathers in the Tanakh. So, with that being said, I was going to read let me see what I got on here. Chapter 9, verse 10 says, and it came to pass at the end of 20 years, when Solomon had built the two houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house. And this right here is like need to know, So he says, now Hiram, the king of Tyre, had finished Solomon with cedar trees and furnished Solomon with cedar trees and fir trees and with gold according to all his desire. That then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. And Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they pleased him not. And he said, what cities are these which thou hast given me, my brother? And he called them the land of Cabal unto this day. And Hiram sent to the king 60 talents of gold, And this is the reason the levy which King Solomon raised for to build the house of the Lord in his own house, and Milo, and the walls of Jerusalem, and Hazor, and Megiddo, and Gezer. And for Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Gezer and burnt it with fire and slain the Canaanites that dwelt in the city, and given it for a present unto his daughter Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Gezer, and Beth Horon, the Nether, and Baalath, and Tabor in the wilderness and in the land, and all the cities of store that Solomon had, and the cities for his chariots, and the cities for his horsemen, and that which Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, and in Lebanon, and in the land of his dominion, and all the people that were left with the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, Jebusites, which were not children of Israel, their children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel also were not able to utterly destroy. Upon these the Solomon lay a tribute of bond servants unto this day. But the children of Israel did Solomon make no bondmen, but they were men of war, and his servants, and his princes, and his captains, and his rulers, and his chariots, and his horsemen. There were the chief of the officers that were over Solomon's work, 550, which bore the rule over the people that were in the work. But Pharaoh's daughter came up out of the city of David unto her house, which Solomon had built for her. Then did he build Milo. And 3 times in a year did Solomon offer burnt offerings and peace offerings upon the altar which he built unto the Lord. And he burnt incense unto the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the house. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezon Geber, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir and fetched from thence gold 420 talents, and brought them under Solomon. Okay. Yeah, so anybody got any comments on what I just read, or anything I was just talking about? I got something else I'm finding why if anybody got any comments.
How they went to Ophir and fetched from thence gold 420 talents. I mean, I don't know how much that is, but I don't think it's anything to scoff at. But
yeah, that's what I was looking for, because I hadn't seen that before, but I was trying to find it where.
Now, was that gold that belonged to him, or he was just taking it from another area? And then, to me, in order for him to do that, well, I don't know, maybe nobody owned the land that he got it from, but somehow they knew that it was there. And to me, that speaks volumes, because that means someone had to have journeyed there in the past to have brought him a report that gold even existed there.
Right. Well, if you go to Genesis, go to Genesis chapter. Genesis chapter 2, verse. I'm starting at verse 8. I'm going to verse 11. It says, "And the Lord God planted a garden eastward of Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that was pleasant to sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from this it was parted and became into 4 heads. The name of the first is Pison, that is which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold." So, like I was saying before, that's the same gold. Like I said, this gold is just being melted down cast and did all kind of stuff to it, and then that's just like the covering that was on that they had on the pyramids. When the later civilizations came, they came and scrapped that stuff off of there and used it to build their cities with and enhance their buildings. And so all the gold you see now, like with Queen Elizabeth, got a wagon, a whole wagon made out of gold. Where do you think it came from? Came from here. The same gold.
Right.
Yeah, they talk about this. So I don't know if you watched the movie and like I said, when you understand how these people convey information, you watch the movie what Nicolas Cage was in, National Treasure, where he talks about this ship called Scarlet. It was a ship where those Knights Templar had conceived all Solomon's gold. They had it on that ship. And the ship ended up, where they want to act like they don't know where it went, but it went to Britain. Because all you got to do is look at all the gold all around Britain. That's where it went. And like I said, Queen Elizabeth, it's the same gold. And when you see where you had just read, where it said Ophir, that's a different type of gold. That's a different. It's the best gold you can get. It's the gold from Ophir. Which is tied to Havilah. And so, like I was saying before, to just to go back and connect the dots, I was saying all of a sudden this guy, Mansa Musa, came out of nowhere. Just so happened he came out of the same area where all the Israelites was located at in West Africa. He comes out of there with this big old crown on and gold everywhere. So, like I was saying before, so that tells me he's tied to Solomon some kind of way. But anyway, when you understand that, you see that they hadn't, the curses of Deuteronomy 20 hadn't caught up with them yet. The ships hadn't came yet, so they were still dealing with the riches and the stuff that Most High gave them. It just wasn't in the land. Then the curses came, overtook them on the west coast of Africa. The ships showed up. Different parts of the curses had already started happening. Like they had lost, they was kicked out, driven out of the land, started losing their identity. Because when you go back and do your research on that whole area, all those kingdoms, all of them got different little things about that they did that were tied to the Hebrew nation. But they had lost a lot of it too. But they still, in different areas, they kept different customs, according to the tribe. And so, like I said, when you tracking these Hebrews, like they say, follow the money, follow the gold. Yeah. Any more comments? Yeah, I wanted to read something right quick. I'm trying to find it because I mean, I thought I had seen it before, but I hadn't seen it before, but I stumbled up on it. It says, let me find it. Okay, like I say, what I'm going to read now, go back to what we dealt with when it's pertaining to Mansa Musa. So it says, chapter 10, verse 14. Now the weight of the gold that came to Solomon. See that it came to Solomon. Most High doing it. Supernatural. It says, in 1 year was 606 talents of gold. Besides that, he had of the merchantmen and of the traffic of the spice merchants and of all the kings of Arabia and the governors of the countries. And King Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of gold went to one target. And he made 300 shields of beaten gold. 3 pounds of gold went to one shield. And the king put them in the house of in the forest in Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great, look at this. This is what I hadn't seen. I had read, I've been reading, I read over this. It says, moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with the best gold. That's the gold of Ophir. It says the throne had 6 steps, and the top of the throne was round behind, and there were says, and there were stays on either side of the palace on a place on the seat, and 2 lions stood before the stays, and 12 lions stood before on one side, and on the other side 6 steps. There were not the like made in any kingdom. So this the throne of David right here. We see the Most High throne that's on sapphire stone in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 26, 27, 28. But this is the throne of David right here. And like I say, ain't no other throne. This is it right here. Ain't no other throne. So when he raised up the Israelites in Ezekiel 37 and they take the kingdom, all they're doing is taking back David's kingdom, David's throne. Yeah. So when you look at that and understand what's going on, David came out of the descendants of Adam all the way back to the beginning, and we know the men before the flood, they had a title called Melchizedek. They was ruling the whole world. So we got America ruling the world now. Well, ain't it just the president got a house in Washington D.C. and a Oval Office? That's David's house. That's David's house when you look at it. Because Enoch and Jared and Noah and Shem, them Melchizedek, they was ruling the world. They ruled all nations. But because of what their children done, that we was cast off and scattered all over the place, there's somebody else ruling the world. But whoever's ruling it, they didn't took the place of the throne that he sat in Jerusalem for David. So when David come back, that's what he come back to get. He come back to get the rulership of the world, which is right here. Like I said, it's all this gold you see all over the place right here, where Solomon built his throne and all that. That's David's throne, and it's a sign of David's rulership. Solomon ruling through David ruling through Solomon. Any comments? Any comments?
Shalom, shalom.
Okay.
Yeah, when you look at when Solomon was building that temple, man, they was bringing gold to him like it was sand on the ground.
Right. It's supernatural. That's what you have to when you understand who the Lord of hosts is, that's why you have to do your due diligence to find out who it is that you operating and dealing with, because it ain't the way it is they're telling you to do it is. So we see right here, I had just read, it says now the weight of the gold that came to Solomon. So it's somebody behind the scenes causing this, making all this. He over here dealing with this person, making them bring stuff to him. Then he over here making people bring stuff to him.
Mm-hmm.
He causing all these people to bring. So you say, well, what are you talking about? Well, go to Isaiah right quick. Isaiah chapter 6. And this when you just go get you some cold water and sit down somewhere, because the Most High gonna do what he said he's gonna do.
Right.
Look at this. I mean, chapter 60. Chapter 60. So he says in verse 1, arise, shine, for thy light has come. The glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. For behold, darkness shall cover the whole earth, gross darkness the people, but the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee, and the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and the kings of the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and see all they that gather themselves together. They come to thee. See that? He's doing the same thing he did with Solomon. He's making all these people, he waking them up, showing them who we are, and then he making all of them recognize who we are. Now they all focus, they forget they stop doing what they've been doing. Now all of a sudden they focusing on us. He doing that. But look at 4 says, lift up thine eyes round about and see, and gather thyself together. They come to thee. Thy son shall come from afar, and thy daughter shall be nursed at the side. Then shall I see, look at this, and flow together, and thy heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. The forces of the Gentiles shall come to thee. So all this stuff you see the Gentiles got, you're gonna look up one day, gonna be coming right towards you. You do the same thing he just did with Solomon.
Right. And Leonard, when you look at everything that was in the temple, it talks about the goblets and the everything that he drank from was made of gold, you know?
Right.
So I mean, we are far from who we really are.
Right. And so what you have to understand too is if a bank robber go and rob a bank and then they catch the bank robber, then they're gonna tell him, ask him where the money that you got at the bank. You gotta go get the money, you know, where the money at.
Exactly.
And so like when you understand that metals, silver and gold, all that stuff you know, if somebody dug a whole truckload of gold out of a mountain, gold ain't gone nowhere. They might be melted it down and did something else with it, but the gold's still here. So when the Most High come back, they stole all our stuff. Where all this gold and Solomon at? It ain't disappeared. Somebody got it. So when he come back, they got to cough it up.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And so he ain't finna, you know, when you got to look at that. David, you know, he was a sheep herder at first, and the Most High brought him from that and brought him into all that. But Solomon from day one, he came out the womb with gold all around him. So when the Most High raised him up, he don't know nothing about all this junk here. All he knows is gold everywhere. So when the Most High gonna make sure he's back, you don't know nothing about this. All the other boys, they don't know nothing about all this what we dealing with. All they know about is gold all over the place and abundance. They don't know nothing about all this. Yeah. So you gotta understand that. So when he raised him up, that's when he got to bring all that back to him too.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then one last thing, Leonard. The temple that Solomon built. Okay, which temple was destroyed by Antioch Epiphanes?
Zerubbabel temple.
Zerubbabel temple. Okay.
Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Solomon's temple.
Okay.
Him and Nebuchadnezzar.
Okay.
Right. Any more comments? Yeah, I want to shine a light on something else too, because like I said, my objective is trying to connect all these dots. So you always hearing about Galilee, right? I showed you let me get this right quick. I was at 1 Kings chapter 8. I just read it. Let me see if I can find it. It says, I'm in chapter 9, verse 10, it says, and it came to pass at the end of 20 years, when Solomon had built the 2 houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house, now Hiram, the king of Tyre. So go back to Tyre, the king of Tyre, which is the Gentiles. And go back to what the Most High told them, Satan was running that place. There's a lot of traffic. Tyre, back in that day, it's the same as America is today, with all this traffic. In the intermingling and all that, Most High don't deal with that. But that's what this Tyre is. And so he says, now Hiram, the king of Tyre, had furnished Solomon with cedar trees, fir trees, and with gold according to all his desire. And then King Solomon gave, look at this, then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in where? In the land of Galilee. See that? He gave him 20 cities in the land of Galilee. So these Gentiles here. So you gotta let that ferment. So when you understand who Jesus is, that's the Syrian. When he came back, he knew this. He came right to Galilee. He came right there with the Gentile cities. Gentiles that was around Galilee. And then if you keep reading, 12, Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him. See that? Solomon gave him cities in Tyre, in Jerusalem, within the boundaries of Jerusalem. And they pleased him not. He said, what cities are these which thou hast given me, my brother? And he said, he called them land of Cabal unto this day. And Hiram sent to the king 600 talents of gold. And this is the reason for the levy which Solomon raised for to build the house of the Lord in his own house, and Milo and the walls of Jerusalem, and Hazor. So Megiddo and Gezer. So look that word Hazor up. When you get a chance, Google that. And it's going to take you right to Judges in this Galilee of the nations. That's what all this going on there. It's Galilee. It's Gentiles in Galilee. It's Gentiles all around Galilee. Okay. And I'm willing to believe, and I know Most High gonna connect the dots eventually. I'm willing to believe that the Maccabees tied to this Galilee. Anybody got any comments? No comments. Okay. I had sent a video out about Caucasians starting to wake up and pronounce blatantly that the Israelites are black, and that the African Americans here in America is true Hebrews. And I'm gonna play a little bit of it. The name of the video is Africans are the real Hebrews by these men. Powerful end time exposed message. That's the name of the video. So I'm gonna play some of it. Let you check it out.
The great destiny of God on African Americans. It's the devil. Just like the devil wanted to wipe out Jesus, and the devil wants to wipe out African American babies. Yeah, and I know this is like a newsflash and a shocker, but I have seen Jesus so many times, and he has dark skin. So he's Middle Eastern, and he's a very handsome man, but he's also God, but he still has his body. And I saw he's Middle Eastern.
Another area in Africa you have something big happening is in Nigeria. You have the Igbo people, or Igbo, pronounced either way. There's 40 million of them. Also Christians, like I spoke about before, how that could happen to the children of Israel very easily. But also a lot of them are now coming out and converting back or adopting the...
Welcome to What Matters with Splendid. It's high time for us to awake out of our sleep, because it's clear that the world knows something about us that we simply do not know. You're about to see a series of clips which highlight statements made by European Jews and so-called white people. In these clips, they're going to acknowledge the fact that so-called black people are the original Israelites. However, these confessions are not without some type of string attached. Although there is an acknowledgement of who we are as a people, there's still an attempt to add false narrative to it. In other words, they say that we represent most or some of the tribes, and they still try to connect themselves as being one or more of the tribes. So pay attention to that as you watch these clips. Up next, some very eye-opening information about the real tribes of Israel. It's time to open your eyes.
And I'd like to now bring up another interesting place that you're finding descendants of the Israelites, but may not necessarily be from the 10 tribes, but will also play a role. And shouldn't be overlooked. It's a very serious scenario. It's in Africa. Africa has perhaps hundreds of millions of people with this identity right now, of being from the people of Israel. We're taught by the historians and within our own traditions that when the Romans conquered Judea, a few hundred years after the tribes of Israel went into exile, perhaps millions of Judeans were sold into slavery. Into Africa, into Rome, deep into Africa. And if you look now, you're seeing people who are most likely the descendants of those slaves who kept true. I'd like to bring up a few specific examples. They're going to be game changers. One of them wrote letters to Israel when it became a state. They said, we're Israelites out in Africa. And everyone laughed at them. They said, African Israelites, these people are just trying to jump on the first world country bandwagon. They're living in a third world country. They got nothing. We're coming to Israel. We got innovation, technology. So they're trying to get on this train because there's such a thing called the right of return. All descendants of the Jewish people from around the world were able to move to Israel. So they said we are also. And everyone kind of laughed at them, like I said. And a few people took it serious and went out there and started studying them, learned about their culture. And a professor from Duke University went out there and did DNA testing on them. And he showed not only did they share Semitic genes from people who were in Yemen, back to the Middle East, these gentlemen, a large percent of them, have the Y chromosome to be Kohanim, to be priests. Now, if anyone doesn't know, a priest is a specific family clan of the nation of Israel who come from Aaron, the brother of Moses, who was the first priest. And anyone descended from Aaron has the status title priest. And we found that these men in this village in South Africa called Lemba, L-E-M-B-A, carry this genetic marker to let us know that they share the same as from the Sephardic and the Ashkenaz and the population of people in Israel today. They share the same exact DNA marker. It's mind-blowing. So everyone kind of got humbled a little bit, who laughed at them and said, now what? Now what do we do about this? This could have tremendous implications. Another area in Africa who have something big happening is in Nigeria. You have the Igbo people, or Igbo, pronounced either way. There's 40 million of them, also Christians, like I spoke about before, how that could happen to the children of Israel very easily. But also a lot of them are now coming out and converting back or adopting the rules of the Torah without all the paganism that they've been practicing for hundreds of years. There's been books written about it from scholars in Nigeria, from scholars from the Jewish people. And where it gets interesting is, in America, there was a slave trade. And a lot of the slaves, a very high percentage of them, came from Western Nigerian ports. And in America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. You know, so what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is most likely there is something there. And most likely, maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today who are white, Caucasian people came in a little bit later on. We know that some of the greatest sages of the transmission of the Torah were converts from Rome. You have a man named Onkelos who wrote a commentary on the Torah, unprecedented, that we still learn today. He was a convert. Some of the largest pillars on the transmission today were Roman converts. So here we are, I'm speaking, we're Caucasian Jewish people, and now you have people in Africa saying that they're the real people of Israel. It can't be ruled out at all. We know they were sold into slavery. We know now that they're fulfilling prophecies by saying, we're coming back.
In a book called Hebrewism of West Africa, author Joseph J. Williams documents the Hebraic practices, customs, and beliefs which he found among the people of Jamaica and the Ashanti of West Africa. He initially examines the close relationship between the Jamaican and the Ashanti cultures and the folk beliefs. He then studies the language and culture of the Ashanti, of whom many Jamaicans have descended, by comparing them to well-known and established Hebraic traditions. The West African tribal nations that our forefathers were taken from have many ancient Hebrew customs in their culture. The Kafir, Bo, Rebo, Maribuk, Babumba, Accra, Fanti, Aken, Yoruba, Congo, and Ashanti, just to name a few of the many sub-Saharan nations that engage in ancient Israelite rituals. In East Africa, in the country of Ethiopia, lived a people called Beta Yisrael, which means House of Israel. These brothers and sisters claim descendants from the biblical Israelite tribe of Dan. Dan was one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Beta Yisrael are black-skinned as an Israelite would be. They were given the name of Falashas, which means stranger and foreigner. Beta Yisrael is not indigenous to the country of Ethiopia. This is why they are called stranger by the inhabitants of that land.
Let me just reveal some things. First of all, is that the Jews who were brought in Israel, most of them are white. Not most of them, almost all of them are white, including me. I was brought in Israel from a country which is called Bulgaria. It's a European country. And I can tell you that in every European country, there are Jews, and there is so-called organization, Jewish Agency, which is trying to take the Jews to Israel. If you track this organization, you can find out that this is not an Israeli organization. This is an American organization. Jewish Agency is an American organization which has the exclusive right to decide who is Jewish and who is not on this planet, and who will be taken to Israel and who is not. Now, if you do research, you will find out that in Africa, in Black Africa, they're looking for Jews only in Ethiopia. They bring Jews only from Ethiopia. And I can tell you by knowing a lot of people who Ethiopian Jews here in Israel that they're treated very bad, very bad. And many of them commit suicide because they cannot take it. So they come from some place in Ethiopia, they don't have much there, but they live decent life. And when they come here and try to be humiliated and so on, then some of them cannot even take it. Now, what I'm trying to say is that why from each white country this Jewish entity is trying to bring Jews, and when it's about Black Africa, they go into Ethiopia, and then this is where they stop. The only one place. Now, because of the same thing, they're trying to do the white supremacy here. They try to bring white guys here and to take the supremacy over Arabs, which are the local citizens, and over blacks, which are so far they're only the Ethiopian Jews. Now, what I'm trying also to say is that another question is why? Why America needs Israel? In Israel there is no oil like in other Middle Eastern countries. There's nothing they can be attracted to. But why do they do all these things? Why do they invest money, bring white people and so on? When we build their system of white supremacy, just like in America, they build in Israel. Why? And I can tell you why. Because the true Jews, according to the Bible, you can check it in the Bible, you can read Job 30:30, it's a lot of places. They have never been white. They have been people of color. And they have not stopped in Ethiopia. They were in Ethiopia, Sudan, and they have settled in West Africa. From the West Africa, they have been taken as slaves to America. Brothers and sisters, blacks of America, it's you. You are the true Hebrews. You are the true Hebrews from the Bible. America gonna do everything, gonna invest as much money as it has, and gonna fight as much wars as they can, gonna invite as much weapons as they can, just to hide this away from you. Gonna take Israel, gonna bring white people here, and to tell them these are the Jews. We're gonna kill you. We're gonna kill Arabs. We're gonna mistreat people like this guy just to tell you this lie. You are nobody, and we are the Jews with all the history and so on. It has been deleted your history. You don't know who you are. Don't forget about it. This is why America has been taking your history away, never to find out that it's all about you. I'm telling you this, please. I don't know. I don't ask you to come to Israel to start a revolution. I'm just asking you to start thinking this way, to believe me a little bit, because I'm living in Israel and I'm part of this injustice. I really believe that people like me and you, we can bring the justice back. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody got any comments on what you heard?
Yes. What in the world is the Y chromosome, and where in the hell did they get that from?
Say that again.
The Y chromosome, the Cohen DNA.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I kind of stole. I mean, you know, I was listening to that, and I started to see something, because you have to go back and look at Isaac was Abraham. I mean, Isaac and Jacob came. Both of them came forth from out of Rebecca loins. You know what I'm saying? So those she a Hebrew too. So she got some Hebrew DNA, some Hebrew DNA in her. So, and then, like I said before, he raised by he was raised by Abraham too. So he got the culture, and then he got some of the characteristics, just like with Ada and Zillah. They married Lamech. But anyway, which it don't really justify the Y chromosome, but I'm saying, as far as when you start connecting all the dots, it's always when the evil involved in it, they always meshing and coming in the same way that the Most High working. Just like with you had two Enochs, you had two Lamechs. They come in. He come in sliding. If you're not really doing your homework, he gonna slide. He gonna get by on you. Just like the blessings with the two boys, with Isaac blessed him. He both of them had the fatness of the earth. Both of them received dew from heaven, but one of them is gonna receive it by the sword. And that's the difference. So that's how they slide in. But I'm gonna expound on it a little more after I finish this video about what I'm talking about. Anybody else have any more comments?
Shalom,
Okay.
shalom. Yeah, I was gonna mention that Y chromosome too, and what I was gonna say was, are we gonna find out that the medical world in the West have led us wrong with as far as our DNA makeup? Have they told us that we have the same chromosomal makeup as everybody else, but perhaps it's different? I'm just putting that out there.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna deal with that when I close out. So
Okay.
From what I gathered on that, because it just dawned on me. That's what I mean by when it's good to get all the information you can, because of what's Most High gonna do. When you least expect, He's gonna connect a dot for you. When you least expect, that's why it's best to gather all the information that you possibly can when you deal with any conversation or any topic. Yeah. So
Okay, and I heard the guy say he said the Hebrews, he called them Jews, and there was another word, but so we do not identify with Jews, we identify as Hebrews, right?
Right, Hebrew Israelites.
Okay,
But that's only for somebody with a greater understanding, because you got people out there that's just coming into this and don't really know the depth of all the understanding. They saying Jew and using it in a way like it's Israelite.
Right. Okay.
Because they'll say they're not the real Jews, we the real Jews. But they use
Okay.
the word Jew in the same contents. But
Okay.
a Jew is the people that was there, came in and stole the land in 70 AD.
Mm-hmm.
I mean 143 BC.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hebrew Israelites left 143.
Right. Right.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more comments? Mike muted. Okay.
Okay, that the noise. I don't know if you all know it or not. The noise you heard in the background when the guy was talking about there was something to maybe there's something to it in reference to blacks in America being the true Hebrews. I saw a video and those were the chairs where people was getting up, leaving. It was pissed off at what he was saying.
Right. Yeah. I heard it. I thought that was on my I heard it when a loud noise went off, and I realized it was on the video. Yeah.
And indeed, I don't know what you have to say, but the West and the world medically knows that there is a difference between us and them, significant difference.
Right. Right. Okay. Any more comments? I'm gonna let a little more play, and then we're gonna do some Q&A on that, and then we're gonna close out.
Take Biblical Hebrew Israelites, written by author Dr. Joseph Nye Abikar Mensa. The Ga'a names of Ghana claim through oral history that they are descendants of ancient Hebrew Israelites. They refer to themselves as Yudaphoi, meaning they are Jews. This book traces the origins of Ga'a names and their migration from ancient Israel, following the attack of Israel by the Assyrians to their present abode in Ghana. The ancestors of the Ga'a names were ruled by Wume, the high priesthood. Dr. Mensa discusses Ga'a customs and traditions, including the Homowo festival, Otufu Daipo, circumcision, and outdooring, sanctification, of the child after birth. These traditions and customs of Ga'a names are of Hebraic origins. Ga'a names are like genetic markers and are scattered throughout the Old Testament. Some of the names of their towns and villages bear Hebrew names. Tamar Kemp describes the Ga'a names of Ghana as descendants of authentic biblical Hebrew Israelites, whose ancestors once reigned supreme in the motherland. Dr. Mensa is the founder of Ga'a Heritage and Cultural Foundation. Born and raised in Accra, Ganyobi, Ghana, the author is quoted saying, "I had always wanted to know why my people called themselves Game, meaning Ga people. I learned they are of Hebrew Israelite origins, possibly from the tribes of Gad and Dan."
But I'm going to talk specifically today about the Black culture. And I wanted to right now, I know, and how many would agree that I am not Black? Can I get a witness of him? Crazy. From a pretty white to me, can I get a him up in here? Yeah. Praise God. Amen. So here's the deal. But what I want to share with you is I want to tell you about is that, you know, we went across the country and we found out there's certain things that help reach that culture and reach it effectively. And there's certain things that don't make it happen. Okay. And today I would like to talk about those things that do reach the culture, and specifically the men of the culture. And the first thing I found out is this. I found out that they do not know their history. That's one of the things that I know. And so you have to tell them the history. So today I'm going to attempt to do that. Note number one is this. When we talk about the cultures, I always take them back to, of course, Israel first. Israel is the first
thing I take them back to. And from Israel, I make the journey of course, the dividing of the two kingdoms in 721 BCE, when the northern and southern kingdoms of Israel split. The southern kingdom, of course, made up of half the tribe of Levi, Benjamin, and Judah, making up what is called the house of Judah. They're staying in there. They went, of course, up into Babylon for a short period and then returned to the land of Israel. Those are the sovereign Israelis that live in the physical land of Israel. The second one was called the last 10 tribes, the northern kingdom, otherwise known as the house of Israel, or the largest numerical tribe called Ephraim, which highlighted several times here. That those were scattered to the nations. Part of those, of course, went into Africa. Now, Israel wasn't originally called Israel, it was called Greater Africa. So these are the points that I begin to lay out. I begin to associate with the culture and reach into the culture itself, because its history is very deep. While in that course in West Africa, we talk about the history of that, and we talk about Dahomey and Benin, West Africa, and the three things that they attempted to do upon the black men, and that is the black women. And then as they walked around the tree, how many remember the Detroit Tribal Revival? And they put three potential, they were never cursed people, but potential curses on those people. And that is of sexual immorality, financial instability, and utter poverty. And that they would forget their roots and where they came from. That's what I'm going to be. My whole teaching today is on the third one there that I want to take a look at. Again, they attempted to put a voodoo or opiate curse on them of sexual immorality. Number two, financial instability and utter poverty. And number three, that they would forget their roots and where they came from. So, one of the ways that you can identify with the culture is to begin to go into the culture and explain to them the obvious, why they would not know or see that in their own culture. All right, let's go into culture. So, how are we going to reach this specific culture? Watch what happens. Now, we're going to talk about history. And we have to go back into their history to explain where they came from. And number two, in America, because we live in a democracy, a social republic, many of you start off at the very beginning like, I don't really care. Well, by the time it's done, trust me, their life has changed. Amen. Let's go in right now. Let's follow the narrator right now. Part of it comes out of a narration in Torah 201. You saw some of this, the history of the African people in the Bible. And what are we doing now? What are we doing right now? We're going into identifying culture. So today, our feature is, of course, the black culture. Let's go into right now, follow the narration right now on it. And 1, 2, 3, let's read it.
Africa. In ancient biblical times, Africa was known by many names. Number 1, Akibulan, mother of all mankind, Garden of Eden. Number 2, Kemet. 3, Libya. 4, Artiga. 5, Corfu. 6, Egypt. 7, Ethiopia. 8, Sudan. 9, Olympia. 10, Hesperia. 11, Oceania. North Africa and Northeast Africa, now presently the Middle East, was linked by a strip of land called the Sinai Peninsula. The completion of the Suez Canal on November 17, 1869, severed the physical link that connected North Africa and Northeast Africa. The final separation came in World War II when the war correspondents coined the term Middle East to describe the area that now encompasses Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Yemen, Kuwait, Bahrain, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar.
Okay, now, so what happened is that now we're going to set the stage right now. Okay, look at your notes again. So what have we learned? That Africa did not have just the name Africa. Is that right? It had several names. So that's really critical. We understand that. We become familiar with those terms. And I'll tell you, so that what? So that when we sit on a seat on an airplane, we begin to open up a discussion and we begin a dialogue with them. Now, Rabbi, why would you even concern them? Like, who really cares about this? Well, in the last days is a prophecy. And we're seeing the prophecy being fulfilled. In Deuteronomy 30, verses 1 through 6, God said he's going to regather and ingather those who he has scattered to the nations. The Bible says he's going to bring them back to the land, making an aliyah to the land. and they're going to have a greater heritage in the land. Is that right? Amen? All right, moving on. Let's see. And when people say that color doesn't matter to them, but it matters to someone who is in inner city, who has went through a struggle, who every time they walked into a place, they were the isolated people, and etc. Well, we know that, amen? And so you have to identify with the culture. You have to love the culture. You have to have a passion for the culture. You have to become knowledgeable of what's going on. Because sometimes the worst fight I find within the black culture is the black culture. They're all fighting amongst each other. Amen? So a lot of times we've just got to have them understand that God has a covenant promise for these people. And their covenant promise, even though part of the curse of the Obeah curse, that again, they were never cursed people, is that they would forget their roots and where they came from. So when we were in Barbados, I asked the whole crowd, a large crowd there, I asked them a question. I said, how many of you know Moses? And they all raised their hand. I said, so I want to ask you a question. And if I asked you this, when you envision this, okay, tell me what color skin he has. You can see his pin drop in place in there. What do you think they said? White. And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, if I ask you the name Joseph in the Bible, what color skin would you say? Now, this is an all-black culture. This is an all-black community. Okay? What do you think they said? White. Okay? If I asked them, who enslaved you in Africa, who do you think they said? Wow. I told them, you flunked every exam. So the next, write this down. The next thing I tell the culture is, of the 12 tribes of Israel, how many are black? 8. 8 of the 12 tribes, so 2/3 of the tribes are black. So isn't it interesting? I asked them, how is it that if 2/3 of all of the 12 tribes of Israel are black, when I ask you about any of the people, you say they're white? Aha. Going back to, now walk with me, the third curse, again, that you would what? Forget your roots, read it to me, and what? And where you came from. And part of the reason why, no offense, part of the reason why black churches don't teach this is because they don't want to get in the struggle yet. They don't want to make it, quote unquote, racially motivated. People, this has nothing to do with racially oriented. I would say that again. This has nothing to do with being racially oriented. This is biblical. I'm going to repeat that. This is biblical. These are biblical people.
Notice how you got to still be aware of that slippery tongue nature of those.
Okay. Anybody got any comments on that? First of all, you see how he slid it. He slid the part in there. There's 8 tribes. 8 tribes is black.
Yeah, that was real slick.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Go back to what I keep saying about the, Jacob was black, and his 4 wives was black. You got you can't get no Hawaiians, no Indians, and all that out of that. If the 4 women black and he black, how in the hell did some of them Hawaiians and all this and Mexicans?
Right.
They all Negro will they have? That's point blank. So yeah.
I'm sure his next service was a little skimpish. He probably pissed a lot of people off with that one.
What's that?
I said, I'm sure his next service was a little skimpish.
Oh yeah, right.
Probably pissed a lot of people off with that one.
Right. Well, he slide. The thing about it is the evidence is so overwhelming, and they're doing the same thing now that they did with the New Testament. They sliding all the stuff in. They bring the truth in with it because it's so overwhelming, but they sliding in. They sliding their part in too. So because when you like I said, if you look at it and see that Jacob was black and his 4 wives were black, they ain't got nothing to do with nothing. So he got to say, bring a little truth to say 8 of the tribes was black and the other one was such and such. Yeah. So any more comments on that? What you saying?
I said that was it. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Anybody else got any comments?
Yeah, he was a little bit too happy to say that the black people didn't know who they were. He was like,
Right.
Everybody was black, and I asked him a question, and he was just a little bit too happy. It was kind of sarcastic or kind of talking down,
Right.
like they fight among each other. They don't even know this, they don't know that. So
Right. Yeah, they need the other 4 tribes, the white tribe, to wake them up.
right.
Really.
It's
Yeah.
amazing that that the Europeans are waking up and declaring this, but it's prophecy, so should be
Right.
expected.
Right. That's what I was saying earlier about it's the Most High doing.
Mm-hmm.
They can't even help themselves, and you got to have an eye for that. You got to have an eye for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you see how he kept reiterating that his people, I guess the people that are listening to him, they need to know this so that they can engage them, so that they can, they need to know the culture, and that's what the European has done along with Esau. They go in among our people, our ancestors, and pretend like they're there to help, but they actually studying them to see how they can, but it's all a part of us being under the curse.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah. So what I was saying was, pertaining to that video, and like I said, what I saw when I was looking at that was the fact that if you go to some of the part of the episodes that's dealing with uncomfortable conversation with non-Messianic Hebrew Israelite, and we was talking about how in 143 BC was when the Israelites left. And they fled. We know they fled into Africa, and then eventually they went across the top, stayed up there a while, and then they eventually started trickling down through the Sahara Desert, and they came, and they ended up on the west coast of Africa. Well, when Esau stole the land when that happened. When the Most High had predicted to happen, that he was going to run the Israelites out, and he brought Antioch Epiphanes, Esau was there and stole the land, and started possessing the land by the same 12 lots with the same names, calling themselves by the same names, and they occupied the land all the way till 70 AD. But what dawned on me was, and what brought it about was, I'm dealing with this series right now called The Slave Master, The Slave Hunter, and The Slave. So when you look at that, that's 3 different nationalities of people. When you understand that, that's dealing with the transatlantic slave trade and the Arab slave trade. You got the slave master. We know who that is. That's Esau. And and Esau merged with those Japhet, became Edom, right? But you got to also remember there's a prophecy on Amalek. Amalek is the head. He's the head. He's the Zionist. That's which tied to Herod's lineage. So then you have the slave hunter, like the guy was saying. The guy talking about. He keep on saying over and over again what nobody is not understanding is when those slave ships showed up to on the coast of Africa, they ain't show up and the slaves just jumped on the ship. There had to be a system set up. There had to be people out on the ground on Africa running down the slaves, and capturing the slaves like we see on the movie Roots when they was LeVar Burton was walking on this trail and they threw that net over. So you had the slave masters, they're the ones on the boats, and then they got a system of people, slave hunters, that's catching the people and bringing them to the shoreline, and then the slave himself So that's 3 different nationalities of people. So who are these people? So then when you go back and look at it, Esau is a slave master. Then you got the Africans. And then you got the Negroes, which is from Negro land. That's who they was getting. So that's 3 different distinct group of people. But another thing that dawned on me was that well, I've been talking about over and over again about Herod's lineage was given safe passage to Spain. And if you when you go back and look at Esau, I told you he was of color too, you know, but he had intermingled with those giants, so he was a mix, or like he had color in him. But Herod's lineage was given safe passage to Spain, and then his lineage married into those aristocratic families all over Europe, and they ended up being whited out. Well, you had that was Herod's lineage that was sent over there amongst the Japhet. Well, I was looking at what the guy in Babylon Timbuktu was talking about. Well, some of those Edomites fled in Africa too. Because when you start looking at what this guy is saying, he don't know a lot of stuff that I know or that we've been dealing with online. So he got this group of people called the Fulanis that raid these villages, and they hate the Negroes, the ones that was in Negro land. Those are the ones that Esau was using. They the ones that was rounding up all the people. It was a whole network of people that was rounding up Negroes and bringing them in. They had no DNA connection to them. They hated them. These Fulanis hated them. They're Edomites. They didn't go to Europe and get whited out. So, like he's saying, you got a slave master, a slave hunter, and then you got slave. And I was like, wow. So I'm looking at that, and so like I said before, we was talking earlier how you got a Enoch that we know the 7th from Adam. He holy is all outdoors, but Cain has slipped the Enoch in his lineage. He just slipped a Lamech in his lineage. It's a Lamech in Adam's lineage. So, like I said before, Israel lived in the land and built a temple. Then the Edomites stole the land and they picked the vision up in Daniel 11 and 14. They picked the vision up, they built a temple. Well, if some of the Israelites went into Africa, hell, some of the Edomites went into Africa. He was when he received the blessing, you know, he got the fat part of the fat part of the land, and Jacob got fat part of the land too. So that's how he's getting over, even with the curses. Deuteronomy 28 identifies the Israelite. Deuteronomy 28 from 15 to 68 identifies who the Israelite is. Well, you go to Deuteronomy, Ezekiel 35, and the Most High said a sword gonna follow Esau. Well, if you don't understand about Deuteronomy 28, then you can those same curses that's following him in Ezekiel 35. You would think that that's Jacob, but it ain't Jacob. It's Esau. Because when you go back and look at those people, those Jews, they didn't wander from one country to another because they go to one country with all those little slick usury laws they got and banking schemes they got, and people they go from one country to the next, stealing all the people wealth. So they end up getting a bunch of them getting murdered and killed and maimed and everything else, and then they run them out. Well, that's the same thing, same curses, similar curses on Israelites. And so they've been able to pass as the real Israelites up until this point because of that. Because people's looking at him like, well, what happened to them with Hitler? They say, well, it's got to be them because of, look what happened. Look what the Germans did to them. That's part of the curses. No, it ain't part of the curses. It's part of Ezekiel 35. And so anyway, I was watching this video right here today, and that dawned on me. And so, and like I was saying before, you also have to consider Amalek. You know, and that's what he means. Let me read that right quick before I close. You got to factor this in too. You know, and I'm putting it out there. You know, so it might be falling on deaf ears, but it's being recorded. So eventually it's gonna catch up with you. So it says right here in Obadiah, right quick, and I'm gonna close. The vision of Obadiah, thus says the Lord God concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, an ambassador sent among the heathen. Arise and let us go up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. That's Amalek. So what you talking about? Zephno went over to Japhet, went over to Greece. And it's the head of the Greeks. The Greeks is Esau, which is Zephno. It ain't that many of them. And they did the same thing with the Ashkenazi and the Romans. They said the ruling head, the small ruling head of them is Edomites. And then you say, well, what are you talking about? They went to Herod's lineage, which is tied to the Amalekites, the Zionists, the ones that want to return to, and they came back in 1948, caused all these wars. They returned back there. Well, what did they do when they went to Spain? They started marrying into these aristocratic families. So the top of these countries, Edomites, they small. Ain't that many of them? The Amalekites. And so, in closing, I want to show you something that's jumped off the page. Go to Ezekiel right quick. This is major. Go back to what I was saying. You want to check that out? Just go Google, go to YouTube, and then go to search block. Type in the slave master, slave hunter, and slave. I think it's maybe 10 parts to it. But I was in Ezekiel 38. It's gonna blow your mind. So it says, 38 verse 1. And the word of the Lord, this is at the end when the nation's gonna come together against the Israelites. And so what you have to understand is they already been doing this all along. Just over here, they're doing the same thing in America. They're doing the same thing over in Africa. It's still Negroes over there. It's still Israelites over there. And the same thing they're doing over here, they're doing over there. So it says, chapter 38, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against God, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach, Tubal, and prophesy against him. See that? So that Tubal ain't there on just for the hell of it. They go all the way back to Cain's lineage. That's how you can identify who they are. 3, and say, thus says the Lord, behold, I am against thee, O God, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. He against them because they Cain's sinners, children of wickedness. 4, and I will turn thee back, put hooks in thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So just to make it plain, what Tubal Cain known for? Fashion and metal. That's what they got on. All this they got on bucklers and shields. But people want to say you can't connect the Tubal right here with the Tubal in Genesis. And that's a lie from the pits of hell. So 5. Now this is what I'm getting to. Now we in Africa. Right today, September 2020. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, with them. All of them with shields and helmets. See that? These are people we just got to talk about. There's a guy who was just trying to say they Israelites. They ain't no Israelites. And they over there. So the man said that you got the slave master, you got the slave hunter, and then you got the slave. The slave is the Negroes, the Hebrews. Who the slave hunter? Right here. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, all of them, they've been there. They're the ones that was going in, getting the people out of Negro land, bringing them to the boat. Slave hunter. Then Esau was the slave master. It's been going on. We just had a proper understanding of it. And so, like I said before, some of these Edomites go look up the Fulani people. They hate these people over there in Negro land. They're the ones that they raid their villages, burn them alive, chop their heads off. The guy was showing you how they do the same thing on the slave boat when they knew that those Negroes was insured, they had insurance on them, and if something came up, they throw them over cut their heads off and throw all them over, had them connected to a chain, throw them over the boat. All of them go in the water. Well, these Fulani was doing the same thing over in Africa when they got in the jam, and they seen that they weren't gonna be able to get the slaves where they wanted to take them to. They chop all of them heads off and kill them. So somebody had to give them that playbook. So like I said, right here, we've been reading this for 1,000 years, and there it is, right there in verse 5. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, all of them with shields. Gomer, that's in Genesis chapter 10. Japhet and all his band, the house of Tamar, that's in Genesis chapter 10. Of the north quarters, and all the bands and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. See that? So I'm like, wow. So yeah, so I was stick that in there because I was looking right at it, you know what I'm saying? When I started, I was listening to watching these episodes on YouTube about the slave master and the slave hunter and the slave, and it just, I was like, wow, it started all coming together. So I'm gonna open up for some comments, and then we're gonna close out.
Shalom.
Okay.
When I traveled to Africa, and you go to those cities like Tamale, Kumasi, which is in Accra, you see compound after compound that is empty and abandoned. And what the guide told us is that just on any given day, the children would be outside playing, and all of a sudden, people would run to that compound, take the children, go in the house, take the parents, So what you just explained, the master, the hunter, and the slave, and that there had to be some type of system to get them to the boat. That's
Right.
exactly what is evident when
Right.
you see all those big homes and those compounds that are just left empty and abandoned. And then the thing that they did, Leonard, they would then go back and raid those compounds for their personal possessions and things.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They don't mention that. They mention what happened over in Germany with the Jews, but they're not mentioning this. And it's still ongoing because, like the Most High said, it's a perpetual hatred.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, Esau was of color too, but Amalek was sent to Spain. He whited out. He mingled in with them.
Right.
With the German, that's why I say now that Amalekite, he the one. If you want to get a picture of a Amalekite Edomite, look at the little guy that's on the COVID-19 case with for Trump, Fauci.
Dr. Fauci.
Right. So them Greeks are known for that big old hook nose. They adopted through the DNA, intermingling with the DNA, they adopted that nose.
Exactly. The other thing that they do, just like they change the names of other people to steal their identity, they change their names, take that Stowski or whatever is common with the Jewish people. They change that to hide their identity. Yeah.
Right. And they did the same thing with us. Change our name.
Right.
To hide our identity.
Right.
But like I say, you sitting right there looking at the whole thing, it's right there in your face. But like I say, the dots got to be connected. And you got to dig and keep digging and keep digging and keep connecting dots. That's all you got to do. And praying.
Right. So one of the things they say, Leonard, when they talked about slavery, they say that, Black people need to stop complaining because your brother took you into slavery. So the The people that was the slave hunters, they were not necessarily our brother, but they were in cahoots with Esau. Is that right?
Right. Well, that's the point that I'm stressing right here. Is no DNA connection. So
Okay.
that's how you can understand that it had to be Edomites fled into there. But what you have to do to see this is go and look up Fulani Jews, the Fulanas that's in Africa.
Okay.
They the ones that's raiding. They was the raiders that was raiding the villages that are in Negro land to get slaves, to bring them to the slave ship. They have no DNA, no kind of relationship DNA wise to those Negroes.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have to go back and say, who is these people? Then you go back and when you do the research, you find out, who they are. Yeah, and then we know that those people that was in Spain, Portugal, and all that, it was a bunch of them that those countries rounded up, and they took them to the West Coast of Africa, dumped them on the seashore and left.
Mm-hmm.
It was Edomites.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's automatic. It's like I said, you go find a snake, and he half dead, and you go and take him to your house and fix him all up, and then when he get healthy, he's gonna raise up and bite you. Because
exactly.
That's what these people, Most High tell us. He says, because of that perpetual hatred for your brother.
Mm-hmm.
So look at Haman. Haman couldn't help himself. He hated the Jews. He hated the Israelites.
Right, all the way back from the Amalekites that Saul left in the land.
Right, they hated. So that's the way to track them.
Mm-hmm.
They hate the Israelites. And when you start watching start getting this information, they're watching these videos on how they all you have to do is Google it, and you're gonna see how they raid the villages, how they come in. These people, like I said, the Israelite, he's non-void.
Mm-hmm.
They like I said, they're intellectuals, and they're not violent people. But
right.
these people, these Fulanas, they violent, man, and they wicked as hell, and they come in, throw bombs, set a fire around all the way around the village, and then throw bombs in there for the people to come out, and then they,
right.
raping the women, whatever they do, and robbing them, and then take them to the boat.
Mm-hmm.
There can't be no relationship to them. It's impossible.
Right.
So you got to go back and do your homework and with the help of the Most High, and connect the dots.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then one last thing, Leonard. The gentleman on the video, he kept on saying, "This is not about racism. This is biblical or scriptural or something." So racism was thrown in the mix for further confusion.
Right. Yeah, right. But that wasn't for us. That was for them. They knew that they was a nobody.
Okay.
So they were building themselves up by bringing in racism, saying that they're superior, but they ain't superior because how you know that is that Israelite wasn't the Negro on the boat wasn't able to look at him because
exactly.
He made him look down because he felt shameful when he looked at him.
Right. So they flipped the script.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any more comments? Yeah, appreciate that. Yes, that's what we're trying to do here at Prophets Awakening, shine light in the dark places, and connect as many dots as we can. No more comments? Okay. So being that we don't have no more comments, I'm gonna close out right there with and we're gonna pick this up tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Shalom, shalom, and another shalom.